The endless horizon was dying. Commander Vexal knew this the way a captain always knows when his ship has given everything it can give. The engines made sounds they should not make. The lights flickered in patterns that meant nothing good. And somewhere deep in the lower decks, 3 hull breaches were slowly stealing the air his crew needed to breathe. Vexal sat in his command chair and looked at the star map on his broken display screen. The nearest Carithi port was 7 cycles away. 7 cycles of travel through empty space with engines that could fail at any moment and life. Support systems that were already working too hard. His crew of 43 would not survive that journey. He knew this with terrible certainty. The attack had come without warning. The Vorn Syndicate pirates had dropped out of hyperspace right on top of them, their black ships appearing like shadows given form. The endless horizon was a merchant vessel, built for carrying goods across the galaxy, not for fighting. They had tried to run. They had almost made it. But the pirates had scored 3 direct hits before the horizon's damaged engines had carried them to safety. Now they drifted in an empty region of space, far from any major shipping lanes, far from any help. "Commander," said his navigator, a young Carithi named Toro, whose scales had gone pale with fear. "I have been looking at our options. There is one system within range of our emergency thrusters." Vexal leaned forward. "Show me." The star map flickered and changed, showing a small yellow star with 8 planets orbiting around it. The 3rd planet was marked in blue and green, indicating it supported life. "Sol system?" Toro said quietly. "The human homeworld." The bridge went silent. Every member of the crew knew about humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans, even though the strange beings had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 standard years ago. They were the youngest species to achieve space travel in living memory. They were also the most confusing. The Galactic Assembly had debated for years about what to do with them. Some members wanted to welcome them. Others wanted to quarantine their entire system and wait a few hundred years to see if they matured enough to join galactic society. The debates were still ongoing. In the meantime, humans had been building ships and exploring the space around their system, cheerfully ignoring the fact that most of the galaxy thought they were too young and too dangerous to be trusted. "What do we know about them?" Vexal asked. Taro pulled up a data file. "They are carbon-based, oxygen-breathing, warm-blooded. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, and only 2 eyes. Their planet has extreme weather variations. They evolved as pursuit predators, which means they developed the ability to chase prey over long distances without stopping." "Pursuit predators," Vexal repeated. That was not comforting. "Their history is very violent," Toro continued. "They have fought many wars among themselves. They created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet before they even reached their own moon. Some assembly members believe they are too aggressive to ever coexist peacefully with other species." Vexal's second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Crix, made a low rumbling sound in his throat. "So our choices are slow death in space or asking help from violent primitives who might decide to study us by cutting us apart. Those are our choices." Vexal agreed. He looked around the bridge at his crew. They were merchants, not warriors. They had families waiting for them back home. They had lives they wanted to return to. And they were all looking at him, waiting for him to make a decision that would determine whether they lived or died. Vexal thought about the stories he had heard about humans. They were aggressive, yes. They had built weapons of terrible destruction, yes. But he had also heard other stories. Stories about humans who ran into burning buildings to save strangers. Stories about humans who gave their own food to hungry creatures they had never met. Stories about humans who adopted, abandoned animals of completely different species and treated them like family. The humans were confusing because they seemed to be capable of both great cruelty and great kindness. sometimes in the same moment. "Set course for Sol System," Vexal ordered. "Transmit on the universal distress frequency. Tell them who we are and what we need." Toril hesitated. "Commander, if the humans decide to take us prisoner, or worse, we will have no way to escape. Our weapons are damaged. Our engines are failing. We will be completely at their mercy." "I know," Vexal said. "But I would rather take a chance on kindness than accept certain death in the darkness between stars." "Send a message." Toril nodded and turned to his console. His claws moved across the controls, and the distress signal went out into the void. They waited. The endless horizon drifted closer to the Sol System on its emergency thrusters. Hours passed. Vexal watched the blue and green planet grow larger on his display screen. It was a beautiful world, he had to admit. Lots of water, thick atmosphere, the kind of planet that life loved to grow on. Then his communication console made a sound, and a voice filled the bridge. "Unidentified vessel, this is Houston Orbital Command. We are reading your distress signal. What do you need?" The voice spoke in Galactic Common, the trade language used by all spacefaring species. The accent was strange, but the words were clear, and the tone was not suspicious or hostile. It was friendly, almost warm. Vex, single quotes, sailed up from his command chair and moved to the communication station. "Houston Orbital Command. This is Commander Vexal of the Karathi merchant vessel Endless Horizon. We were attacked by pirates. Our engines are damaged. We have hull breaches on 3 decks. We need repairs and medical assistance for our wounded." There was a brief pause. Then the voice returned. "Copy that, Endless Horizon. We are dispatching repair crews and emergency medical teams to your location. Can you hold position at the following coordinates? We will have people there in about 2 hours." Vexal felt his scales flush with confusion. "You are offering to help us? Without negotiating terms first? Without asking for payment?" The human on the other end made a sound that Vexal did not recognize at first. Then he realized it was laughter. Not mocking laughter. Warm laughter. Friendly laughter. "Friend, you are hurt and asking for help. We will figure out the paperwork later. Just hold tight. Help is on the way." The communication ended. Vexal stood very still for a long moment. Around him, his crew was staring at him with the same expression of disbelief that he knew was on his own face. "Commander," Crick said slowly, "did that human just agree to help us without asking for anything in return?" "Yes," Vexal said. "I believe he did. That is not how the galaxy works." "No," Vexal agreed. "It is not." He returned to his command chair and sat down heavily. 2 hours. Help was coming in 2 hours. He had expected suspicion. He had expected demands. He had expected to have to bargain for every scrap of assistance. Instead, a stranger had simply said yes. Perhaps the humans were as strange as everyone said they were. Perhaps they were dangerous. But as Vexal waited for their arrival, he found himself feeling something he had not felt since the pirates had attacked. He felt hope. The human ships arrived exactly when they said they would. Vexal watched them approach on his damaged sensor display. There were 3 vessels. One was a small patrol frigate, armed but not threatening. The second was a large cargo ship filled with supplies. The third was a repair shuttle, compact and practical. "They brought supplies," Toril said, his voice carrying a note of wonder. "They actually brought supplies for us." Vexal did not respond. He was still trying to understand what was happening. In his long career as a merchant captain, he had visited dozens of worlds and dealt with countless species. He knew how the galaxy worked. Help always came with conditions. Assistance always had a price. Nobody gave anything for free. The communication console buzzed. "Endless Horizon, This is Lieutenant Katie Brooks on the repair shuttle Swift Response. Requesting permission to dock and come aboard. Vex-Al activated his communicator. Permission granted, Lieutenant Brooks. Docking Bay 2 is still functional. Copy that. See you in 5 minutes. The Kirethi crew gathered near the docking bay, curious and nervous. Vex-Al stood at the front, trying to project confidence he did not feel. Crick stood beside him, one hand resting on his sidearm. Just in case, the docking bay doors opened and the humans came aboard. There were 23 of them. They wore pressure suits in bright orange, designed for visibility rather than stealth. They carried tools and equipment and cases of supplies. At the front was a woman with dark hair pulled back in a practical style and brown eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Commander Vex-Al?" she asked, stepping forward with her hand extended. Vex-Al looked at the hand, then remembered the human greeting gesture. He reached out and clasped her hand briefly. Her grip was firm but not aggressive. "I am Commander Vex-Al. Thank you for coming." "Katie Brooks," she said with a smile. "My team is the best in the fleet. We will have your ship flying again in no time." She turned and gestured to her crew. "All right, people. Let us get to work. Danny, take your team to the engine room. Sam, you handled the hull breaches on Deck 3. I want status reports every 30 minutes. The humans moved with purpose and efficiency. They spread through the ship like water flowing through channels, each person knowing exactly where to go and what to do. Vex-Al watched them work with growing amazement. A young man with dark skin and quick hands introduced himself as Danny Martinez. He was the lead engineer, and when he saw the damage to the Horizon's engine core, he whistled low through his teeth. "That is some serious damage," Danny said, kneeling down to examine the fractured housing. "How did you even make it this far?" "Our engineers kept it running with emergency repairs," Vex-Al said. "They did the best they could." "They did amazing work," Danny said, genuine respect in his voice. "This should have failed completely hours ago. Your people know what they are doing." He pulled out a tool that Vex-Al did not recognize. "Okay, let me see what I can do here." Vex-Al watched as Danny began working on the engine. The tool in his hands was unlike anything in the Galactic Standard Equipment catalog. It was smaller, more precise, and seemed to do things that should not be possible. "That device," Vex-Al said. "I do not recognize it. What technology is that?" Danny grinned without looking up from his work. "Human-made. When we first started traveling in space, we tried to buy equipment from other species. Nobody would sell to us. They said we were too young, too primitive, too dangerous." He adjusted something inside the engine housing. "So we made our own stuff. Turns out, when you tell humans they cannot have something, we get creative. You built your own technology from nothing?" "Not from nothing. We had our own science, our own engineering knowledge. We just had to figure out how to make it work for space travel." Danny glanced up at him. "The other species have had thousands of years to develop their technology. They follow the same designs because those designs work. But we had to solve problems in new ways because we did not know the old ways. Sometimes that means we do things differently." Vex-Al thought about this. The Galactic Assembly had always viewed human technology as inferior because it did not match the standard designs. But perhaps different did not mean worse. Perhaps it just meant different. On the other side of the ship, a stocky man named Pete Gonzalez was moving through the corridors with a large bag over his shoulder. He stopped every time he saw a Kirethi crew member and reached into his bag. Tarl approached Vex-Al with a small package in his claws. "Commander, the human gave me this. He said it was a gift. What is it?" "He called it snacks." Vex-Al examined the package. Inside were several small items wrapped in colorful material. They were brown bars, dried pieces of fruit, and small dark squares. Pete walked over to them, smiling broadly. Figured you folks might be hungry. You have been through a lot. We brought protein bars for energy, dried fruit for vitamins, and chocolate because everyone deserves something nice when they have had a bad day. What is chocolate? Toril asked. Only the best thing humans ever invented, Pete said. It is safe for most carbon-based species. Go ahead, try some. Toril looked at Vexal, who nodded. The young navigator unwrapped one of the dark squares and took a careful bite. The effect was immediate. Toril's scales flushed a deep purple, the Karethi expression of intense pleasure. His eyes went wide. He stood very still for a moment, then quickly ate the rest of the chocolate. This is incredible, Toril breathed. What is this substance? How is this possible? Pete laughed warmly. It comes from a plant called cacao. We grind up the seeds, add some sugar and milk, and that is chocolate. Humans have been making it for thousands of years. You must trade this, Toril said urgently. The galaxy would pay enormous prices for this substance. We do trade it, a little, but mostly we just like sharing it with friends. Friends. The word struck Vexal like a physical blow. They had known these humans for less than an hour, and already they were being called friends. Already they were being given gifts. Already they were being treated like guests rather than strangers. Katie Brooks found Vexal near the damaged navigation console. Commander, I have good news and better news. The good news is that we can fix your engines. They will not be perfect, but they will get you where you need to go. And the better news? The better news is that we can fix your life support systems too. Your air recyclers were working way too hard. We are installing some backup units from our supplies. You should have clean air for months. Vexal struggled to find words. Lieutenant Brooks, I must ask, why are you doing this? Your people owe us nothing. We are strangers from a species that has never had contact with Earth before. Why help us? Katie looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. Because you needed help. Is that not enough? In my experience, nothing is ever that simple. Katie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Commander, when I was young, my grandmother told me something. She said that the measure of a person is not how they treat the people who can help them. It is how they treat the people who cannot help them back. She shrugged. Right now, you cannot help us back. You are hurt. Your ship is damaged, and you have nothing to offer us. And that is exactly why helping you matters. Vexal did not know how to respond to that. In the Kirathi culture, in the Galactic culture, everything was transaction. Everything was exchange. The idea of helping someone simply because they needed help, with no expectation of return, was so foreign that he could barely process it. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman, he finally said. Katie smiled. She was. She also made really good cookies. Come on, let me show you what we are doing with your hull breaches. I think you will be impressed. As Vexal followed the human lieutenant through his own ship, watching her crew work with skill and dedication to save people they had never met, he began to understand something. The Galactic Assembly had called humans primitives. They had called them dangerous. They had called them too young for space. But perhaps the Assembly had been looking at the wrong things. Perhaps the true measure of a species was not their technology or their age or their weapons. Perhaps it was something simpler, something more important. Perhaps it was their kindness. The repairs were going well. Danny Martinez and his team had worked through the night on the engine core, and now it hummed with a steady rhythm that Vexal had not heard since before the pirate attack. The hull breaches were sealed. The life support systems were running better than ever. In a few more hours, the endless horizon would be ready to fly again. Vexal stood on his bridge, watching the human engineers move through his ship like they belonged there. Katie Brooks was at his side, reviewing the repair progress on a handheld device. "Your people work very fast," Vexal observed. "We have had a lot of practice," Katie said. "When you are the new species in the galaxy, you learn to solve problems quickly. I have been thinking about what you said earlier, about helping people who cannot help you back." Katie looked up from her device. "And it is a strange philosophy. In the Kirithi culture, and in most galactic cultures, everything is based on exchange. You give something, you get something. That is how society functions." "How does your society function if you give things away for free?" Katie considered the question. "It is not about giving things away for free. It is about investing in something bigger than yourself. When we help you today, maybe someday you will help someone else. And maybe they will help someone else. It spreads outward like ripples in water. But you cannot guarantee that return. No, we cannot." Katie smiled. "That is what makes it faith instead of business." Before Vexal could respond, the sensor console began screaming. Crix, who was monitoring the systems, went rigid. "Commander, we have incoming vessels. Many of them. They are coming out of hyperspace right now." The main display screen flickered to life, showing the space around the endless horizon. For a moment, there was nothing but stars. Then the stars began to disappear, blocked out by the shadows of ships. 20-7 ships materialized from hyperspace. They were black and angular, designed to look threatening even from a distance. Vexal recognized them immediately. His blood went cold. "Vorn Syndicate," he whispered. Katie was already moving, speaking rapidly into her communicator. "Houston Orbital, this is Brooks. We have a situation. Vorn Syndicate fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. 27 vessels. Repeat, 27 hostile vessels." The response came immediately. "Copy that, Brooks. What are your orders?" "Stand by. Establishing communication with hostile fleet." The communication console crackled and a harsh voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel. You are harboring Kirithi property. That ship and its cargo belong to the Vorn Syndicate. Surrender it to us immediately, and we will allow you to return to your insignificant planet." Katie stepped forward to the console. Her expression had changed. The warmth was gone. In its place was something hard and cold and utterly unafraid. "This is Lieutenant Katie Brooks of the Earth Defense Force. The vessel Endless Horizon and its crew are under Earth's protection. They are not your property. I suggest you leave." Laughter came through the speakers. It was an ugly sound, full of contempt. "Protection? Look around you, human. I count 1 small patrol frigate and 2 unarmed support vessels. We have a fleet. Your species is barely capable of reaching your own moon. Do not play games with us. This is not a game. I am giving you 1 chance to withdraw. Take it." More laughter. "The Kirithi ran from us once. They will not run again. We have tracked them across 3 sectors. We will take what is ours, and if you stand in our way, we will destroy you as well. Your species is young. You do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong take from the weak. That is the only law that matters." Vexal felt despair washing over him. The humans had been kind. They had helped. They had given his crew chocolate and hope and repaired his ship. And now they would die for it. 27 warships against 3 small vessels. There was no way to win this fight. He stepped forward. "Lieutenant Brooks, there is no need to sacrifice your people for us. If you withdraw now, the Syndicate will let you leave. They have no quarrel with Earth." Katie did not look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the screen showing the Vorn fleet. "Commander Vexal, do you want to surrender? I want your people to live. That is not what I asked. Do you, personally, want to surrender to the Vorn Syndicate? Do you want to become their prisoner? Do you want your crew to become their prisoners? Vexal thought about what happened to prisoners of the Vorn Syndicate. He thought about the stories, the slave markets, the torture, the things that were worse than death. No, he said quietly. I do not want to surrender. Katie nodded. Then she smiled. It was not the warm smile she had shown before. This smile was different. It reminded Vexal of something his grandmother had once told him about earth predators, about animals that smiled when they were about to attack. Good, Katie said. Neither do I. She raised her communicator to her lips. Houston, this is Brooks. We have confirmed hostile intent from the Vorn Syndicate. 27 vessels threatening ships under Earth protection. Requesting activation of Protocol 7. There was a brief pause. Then a new voice came through the speakers, deeper and calmer than the previous communications. Brooks, this is Admiral Grace Kim aboard the Resolute. Protocol 7 is authorized. Stand by for fleet arrival. The Vorn commander was still talking, making threats and demands. He did not notice when the stars began to change. Vexal noticed. He watched the main display with growing disbelief as points of light began to appear around the Vorn fleet. At first he thought they were new stars. Then he realized they were too bright, too close, too organized. The points of light expanded. They became circles. Then they became doors. Ships came through the doors. Human ships. Massive vessels that dwarfed everything else in the area. They kept coming. 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40.42. Warships materialized in a formation that surrounded the Vorn fleet completely. The Vorn commander stopped. Talking, Vexal could not breathe. The ships were enormous. The largest was a carrier that had to be at least 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that made the Vorn warships look like children's toys. The human vessels had been painted in dark colors, gray and black, designed to blend in with the void of space. They looked like shadows given form. They looked like death wearing armor. Vorn Syndicate vessels, a woman's voice said calmly over all frequencies. This is Admiral Grace Kim of the Earth Defense Force. You are in Earth-protected space, threatening ships under our care. You have 60 seconds to withdraw your fleet, or we will open fire. The Vorn commander found his voice. It was shaking. This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated you had no military fleet. Your species is barely 30 years into space travel. How can you have these ships? Your intelligence was wrong, Admiral Kim replied. 50 seconds. You would start a war over one alien merchant ship. One species you have never even met before. That is madness. It is not madness. It is policy. Every being who asks for our help receives it. That is not a political decision. That is not a trade agreement. That is who we are. The Admiral's voice remained perfectly calm, perfectly controlled. 30 seconds. Vexal looked at Katie. She was watching the display with an expression of quiet satisfaction. You had a hidden fleet, Vexal said. All this time. The galaxy thought you were primitives, and you had a hidden fleet. We prefer to think of it as a surprise, Katie said. Humans learned a long time ago that the best weapon is the one your enemy does not know you have. On the display screen, the Vorn ships began to move. One by one, they turned away from the endless horizon. One by one, they engaged their hyperdrives. One by one, they fled. In less than a minute, all 27 Vorn vessels were gone. The human fleet did not pursue. The human fleet did not celebrate. The massive warships simply held their positions, silent and patient, like guardians who had always been there. Admiral Kim's voice came through the speakers one more time. Endless horizon. This is Admiral Kim. The threat has been neutralized. Our repair teams will continue their work. Please let us know if you need any additional assistance." The communication ended. Vexal sat down heavily in his command chair. Around him, his crew was staring at the human fleet with expressions of shock and awe. They had expected to die. They had been ready to die. Instead, they were alive because a species they had never met before had decided they were worth protecting. Katie Brooks walked over to him. "Sorry about the excitement. The Syndicate has been getting bold lately. We've been hoping they would try something like this so we could send a message." "A message?" Vexal repeated weakly. "That Earth protects its friends." Katie's warm smile was back. "Now, I think Danny is almost done with your engine core. Would you like to see the finished work?" She spoke as if nothing had happened, as if the appearance of a massive war fleet was just another part of a normal day, as if humans had not just revealed themselves to be one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Vexal looked at her for a long moment. Then he started to laugh. He could not help it. The absurdity of everything was too much. The kind humans with their chocolate and their grandmother wisdom. The hidden fleet that could crush empires. The casual way they treated galaxy-shaking revelations. "Yes," he finally managed. "Yes, I would like to see the engine core." Katie smiled and led him off the bridge. Behind them, the human fleet began to disperse, returning to whatever hidden places they had come. Admiral Grace Kim came aboard the Endless Horizon 2 hours after the Vorn fleet fled. She did not arrive with guards or weapons or the military ceremony that Vexal would have expected from the commander of such a powerful fleet. She came with 2 aides, a box of medical supplies for the Kirathi wounded, and a calm manner that made her seem more like a doctor than a warrior. She was a small woman by human standards, with gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes that suggested she smiled often. She wore a simple uniform without decoration. Nothing about her appearance matched Vexal's mental image of someone who commanded 42 warships. "Commander Vexal," she said, extending her hand in the human greeting. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance. We try to avoid showing our fleet unless absolutely necessary." Vexal shook her hand. "Admiral Kim, I do not know how to thank you. Your people saved my crew. You saved all of us. You needed help. That is all the reason we required." She looked around the bridge, noting the repairs that were still in progress. "Lieutenant Brooks tells me your ship will be fully operational within a few more hours. Is there anything else you need?" "I have many questions," Vexal admitted. "If you have time to answer them." The Admiral smiled. "I always have time for questions. Shall we walk? I find conversation flows better when I am moving." They walked through the corridors of the Endless Horizon together, the Admiral's 2 aides following at a respectful distance. Human repair crews nodded as they passed, but nobody stopped to salute or show fear. They treated their admiral like a respected colleague rather than a distant authority figure. "Your fleet," Vexal began. "The Galactic Assembly believes humans have no significant military capability. Their intelligence reports suggest your species can barely defend your own system." "The Assembly believes many things about us," Admiral Kim said. "We have not bothered to correct them. You have hidden your true strength." "For how long?" "Since the beginning. When humans first encountered other species, we learned very quickly that the galaxy is not a friendly place. The Galactic Assembly saw us as children. The major powers saw us as potential servants or prey. We realized that if we showed our true capabilities, we would become a threat. And threats get eliminated." Vexal nodded slowly. This made strategic sense. "So you played weak. We played young. We played naive. We let other species underestimate us while we built our fleet in secret. We learned from every encounter. Every time someone looked down on us, We watched and learned and adapted. The technology your people use is not standard galactic design. Your engineer told me you developed it yourselves because no one would sell to you. That is true, but it is also incomplete. The Admiral paused at a viewport, looking out at the stars. The standard galactic technology is thousands of years old. It works, so nobody changes it. But humans started from scratch. We solve problems in new ways. Some of our solutions are worse than the standard, but some are better. Much better. Your weapons, Vexal said quietly. The Vorn commander was terrified. What kind of weapons do your ships carry? Admiral Kim turned to look at him. Her expression was thoughtful. Commander, I will tell you something that very few beings outside of Earth know. Our weapons are based on principles that the Galactic Assembly declared impossible centuries ago. They abandoned certain lines of research because the early results were dangerous. They assumed those approaches were dead ends. But they were not dead ends. They were dangerous dead ends. The Assembly was right about that. But humans have a different relationship with danger than most species. We do not avoid dangerous paths. We find ways to walk them safely. Vexal felt a chill run through his scales. The Galactic Assembly had abandoned weapons research because it was too dangerous. Humans had not abandoned it. Humans had pushed forward. Humans had created things that should not exist. You said your policy is to help anyone who asks, Vexal said. Do you not worry that this policy will create enemies? That eventually you will face a threat too large for even your hidden fleet. We think about it constantly, the Admiral admitted. Every time we reveal ourselves to protect someone, we risk drawing attention. The Vorn Syndicate will spread word of what happened here. Soon every power in this sector will know that Earth has military capabilities. We will have to be more careful. Then why do it? Why risk exposure for strangers? Admiral Kim was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. When I was a young officer, I served on a ship that responded to a distress signal from an alien vessel. It was a small trading ship, damaged by an accident. The captain of my ship at the time was a man named Joe Chun, a good man. She paused, remembering. Captain Chun ordered us to help. We spent 3 days repairing that alien ship. We gave them supplies. We shared our food. When they left, the alien captain asked why we had helped. Captain Chun said something I have never forgotten. He said, because this is who we choose to be. Not who we have to be. Who we choose to be. Vexal considered this. Your people choose to help. Yes, we could choose to be like the Vorn Syndicate. We have the power. We have the weapons. We could conquer and take and rule through fear. But we do not want to become that. We want to be better. Even when being better is harder. Even when it is dangerous. They continued walking, passing through the medical bay where the Kirithi wounded were being treated by human doctors. The doctors were gentle and patient, explaining every procedure before they performed it, checking constantly to make sure their patients were comfortable. There is something else I do not understand, Vexal said. Your people brought us snacks, food, chocolate. Why would a military rescue mission include treats? The Admiral laughed softly. Because your people had been through a terrible experience. Because sometimes, when everything is dark and frightening, a small kindness matters more than a large one. The chocolate was not a military decision. It was a human decision. The distinction is important. To us, yes. We are soldiers when we need to be. But we are humans all the time. The chocolate reminds us of that. It reminds us that we are not just weapons. We are people. They reached the engine room, where Danny Martinez was making final adjustments to the repaired engine core. The young engineer looked tired but satisfied, grease staining his hands and face. Admiral on deck, someone called out. Danny straightened up. Ma'am, we are just finishing the last calibrations. The engine should be running at about 90% efficiency. I could not get it to 100%, but 90 should be more than enough to get them home. Excellent work, Specialist Martinez. How long until they can depart? Another hour, maybe 2. We want to run some tests to make sure everything is stable. Admiral Kim nodded. Take whatever time you need. No rush. She turned to Vexal. Commander, your ship will be ready soon. I have arranged for our patrol frigate to escort you to the edge of our system. From there, you should have a clear path to Kirithi space. Admiral, I must ask one more thing. What do you want from us? What do you expect in return for all of this? The Admiral considered the question seriously. We expect nothing, Commander. You owe us nothing. But if you wanted to do something, I would ask only this. Remember us. When you return to your people, tell them what happened here. Tell them that humans helped when they did not have to. Tell them that Earth is a friend to those who need friends. She paused. And if someday, somewhere, you encounter another being who needs help that you can provide, perhaps you will think of us. Perhaps you will choose to help them too. That is all we ask. That the kindness spreads. Vexal felt something shifting inside him. He had spent his entire career believing that the galaxy operated on exchange, on transaction, on the endless calculation of profit and loss. The humans were offering something different, something that felt almost revolutionary. They were offering kindness without conditions, help without payment, friendship without obligation. Admiral Kim, Vexal said slowly, I believe you have given me a great deal to think about. Thinking is free, the Admiral said with a smile. Now, would you like some coffee while you wait for your ship to be ready? It is another human invention. Not as popular as chocolate, but I think you might enjoy it. I would like that very much. They walked together toward the makeshift recreation area that the humans had set up in an empty cargo bay. Behind them, the engines of the endless horizon hummed with renewed life. Ahead of them, a pot of coffee waited to be shared between species who had been strangers a few hours ago and were rapidly becoming something else. Something like friends. The endless horizon was ready to fly. Vexal stood on the observation deck of Earth's primary orbital station, looking down at the blue and green world below. It was a beautiful planet. Swirling white clouds drifted across continents of brown and green. Vast oceans sparkled in the light of the yellow sun. Lights glittered on the night side where human. Cities spread across the darkness like constellations. Brought down to Earth. It was hard to believe that such a peaceful-looking world had produced a species capable of building a hidden war fleet. Katie Brooks stood beside him, along with Admiral Kim and several other human officers who had come to see the Kirithi off. The mood was warm and friendly, more like a gathering of old friends than a diplomatic event. Your planet is beautiful, Vexal said. We think so, Katie agreed. It is a bit more extreme than most species prefer. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, massive temperature variations. But we grew up with it, so it feels like home. Perhaps that explains why your people are so adaptable. You evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill you. Admiral Kim laughed. That is one theory. Another theory is that we are simply too stubborn to stay dead. Vexal turned to face them. His crew was already aboard the endless horizon, preparing for departure. The human escort frigate was waiting to guide them to the edge of the Sol system. In a few hours, they would be on their way home. But first, there was something he needed to say. I have traveled the galaxy for many years, Vexal began. I have dealt with dozens of species. I have seen kindness and cruelty, wisdom and foolishness. I thought I understood how the universe worked. I thought I understood the rules. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Then I came here. I sent a distress signal expecting suspicion and negotiation. Instead, I received help without conditions. I expected to bargain for every scrap of assistance. Instead, your people gave freely. I expected to face the Vorn Syndicate alone. Instead, you revealed a hidden fleet to protect strangers you had never met. Katie started to speak, but Vexal held up his foreclaw. Please, let me finish. The Galactic Assembly calls humans primitive. They call you young and naive and dangerous. They debate whether to quarantine your system or allow you to join galactic society. We are aware of the debates, Admiral Kim said dryly. They are fools, Vexal said flatly. All of them. Fools who cannot see what is right in front of them. The humans looked at each other, uncertain. The galaxy is old, Vexal continued. The major powers have existed for thousands of years. They have forgotten what it means to struggle. They have forgotten what it means to build something from nothing. They have become comfortable with their power and their rules and their endless calculations of advantage. He gestured toward the planet below. You are not comfortable. You are not calculating. You are still young enough to remember what it means to fight for something that matters. You are still naive enough to believe that kindness is worth the cost. You are still dangerous enough to back up your beliefs with power. Commander, Admiral Kim said carefully, I am not sure where you are going with this. Vexal met her eyes directly. I am saying that the Galactic Assembly is looking at the wrong things. They measure your technology. They count your ships. They calculate your resources. But they do not measure the thing that matters most, which is your character. Vexal extended his foreclaw in the gesture of deepest respect. Admiral Kim, Lieutenant Brooks, I have seen your true strength today. It is not your hidden fleet. It is not your weapons. It is your willingness to risk everything for beings you do not know. That is a strength that cannot be measured or calculated. That is a strength that changes galaxies. There was silence on the observation deck. Then Admiral Kim reached out and took Vexal's claw in her hand. Thank you, Commander. That means more than you know. I intend to return to Kirathi space and recommend that my people pursue a formal alliance with Earth, Vexal said. The Assembly may object. They may try to prevent it. But I believe my government will see the wisdom in friendship with humans. We would welcome that, Katie said warmly. I must warn you, Vexal continued. Word of what happened here will spread. The Vorn Syndicate will talk. Other powers will learn that Earth has capabilities beyond what anyone suspected. There will be questions. There may be threats. Let them come, Admiral Kim said calmly. We have been preparing for this day for a long time. We knew we could not hide forever. We hoped we would have more time, but we are ready. You do not seem concerned. I am concerned, but I am not afraid. The Admiral smiled. Fear is useful. It keeps you sharp, but it should not control your decisions. We will face whatever comes the same way we have always faced challenges. Together, with determination, and with kindness for those who deserve it. Vexal nodded slowly. I believe you will. He turned to Katie. Lieutenant Brooks, I owe you a personal debt. You and your crew saved my ship and my people. If you ever need anything at all, you can call on me. Katie grinned. Just spread the word about chocolate. If the galaxy develops a taste for it, we're going to need a lot more cacao farms. Despite everything, Vexal found himself laughing. I will make sure every Kirathi I meet knows about chocolate. You may regret that request. Impossible. The galaxy needs more chocolate. They walked together toward the docking bay where the endless horizon waited. The human repair crews had finished their work and departed, leaving the ship in better condition than it had been before the pirate attack. New systems hummed quietly. Patches and repairs blended seamlessly with the original construction dotted the airlock. Vexal turned one last time. Admiral, there is one more thing I must know. The philosophy your people follow, helping anyone who asks, protecting strangers without expectation of return. Where does it come from? Is it a religion? A political belief? Admiral Kim considered the question. It comes from many places. From religious traditions that teach compassion. From political ideals that emphasize universal rights. From the simple experience of being a young species in a dangerous universe and understanding what it feels like to need help. She paused, then added, but mostly, I think it comes from choice. Every day, every human wakes up and decides who they want to be. We could choose to be cruel. We could choose to be selfish. We could choose to ignore the suffering of others. But we do not. We choose kindness. Not because we have to. Because we want to, and when kindness is difficult. When it costs you something, then we choose it anyway. The Admiral smiled. That is what makes it meaningful. Anyone can be kind when it is easy. The measure of a person or a species is what they do when kindness is hard. Vexal absorbed this. Then he straightened to his full height and pressed his foreclaw to his chest in the Karathi salute of highest honor. Humanity, he said formally, the Karathi will not forget what you have done. May the stars light your path. May your journeys be safe. And may you always find friends waiting when you need them. Admiral Kim returned the salute with a crisp human gesture. Safe travels, Commander. And remember, there will always be chocolate waiting for you on Earth. Vexal boarded his ship. The airlock closed behind him. The endless horizon disconnected from the station and began to move toward open space. Escorted by the human patrol frigate Dot, as the blue and green world of Earth grew smaller in his rear display. Vexal thought about everything that had happened. He had come here expecting nothing. He had found everything. He had found kindness in the void. He had found strength, without cruelty. He had found hope in the most unexpected place in the galaxy. The humans were young. The humans were strange. The humans did things that no other species would consider reasonable or sane. And that, Vexal realized, was exactly what the galaxy needed. He settled into his command chair and watched the stars stretch as his repaired engines carried him toward home. Behind him, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among billions. But it was a point of light that Vexal would never forget. The humans had shown him something precious. They had shown him that the darkness between stars did not have to be cold. They had shown him that kindness could exist anywhere, even in the void, especially in the void. And as the endless horizon jumped to hyperspace and Earth disappeared from his sensors, Commander Vexal of the Karathi merchant fleet began to smile. The galaxy was about to change. The humans would make sure of it.